Hi, I'm Katharine Zarrella, and we are live at New York Fashion Week Day 3, where Sies Marjan S Spring Summer 20 collection just walked down the runway. So Sies Marjan is designed by Sander Lak. He's a Central St. Martin's graduate. He worked for Dries Van Noten for a number of years, and he launched his collection in New York a few years ago. Since then, he's become kind of a New York fashion darling, and he's become really well known for these beautifully draped silk monochromatic looks and really, kind of pop, bright, bold colors. This season, Sander continued to play with, monochromatic looks, but there was more of a focus on construction and on detail and on texture than there has been in seasons past. And that tied into the theme of Sander's collection. So in the show notes, he said that the collection was a rejection of irony, bad taste, satire, reality TV, and kitsch, and it celebrates the beauty of having the time and freedom to create and consider your choices, the antithesis of rushing. And I asked him about this backstage because, to my mind, his collections have never been about bad taste. They've always been really high quality materials, and there's always been a, element of luxury. But, what he said is that he's always been interested in the idea of bad taste within the concept of luxury. And I can see where he's played with that a bit. For instance, a couple of seasons ago, he did these silk cargo pants that could definitely be worn to a black tie event with a heel, but they were still cargo pants. He's fascinated by the colors of a McDonald's sign, or how reality TV stars are somehow some of the most powerful and influential people in the world. And that's always interested him, but he was just over that this season. And I think that was really evident in the construction of the clothes, and also the textures and the textiles. So the colors this season, there was this great bold cherry red, and there were a handful of looks done in this, but I think one of the most eye-catching versions was this croc stamped lacquered leather, say that 10 times fast, jacket and skirt that was worn with a red sandal, and it kind of looked like, super high gloss lip gloss. You also had marigold yellows and burgundies and emerald greens, and the cobalt blues and royal blues, and these really statement making colors. And a lot of the time, Sander will show these incredibly bold colors, but they're contrasted by, particularly in his evening gowns, the delicacy of the drape and the, very feminine silk. And that contrast is really interesting for me, because you have the kind of screaming bold in your face color, and it's balanced with this delicate femininity. One of my favorite looks from this collection actually was not one of these monochromatic looks. It was a pair of khaki wide-legged pleat front trousers, and it was paired with this tailored khaki jacket that looked very kind of conservative and buttoned up from the front, and it was paired with a long reconstructed blue shirt that had two kind of off-kilter rows of buttons, and then these pieces of fabric that went almost all the way down to the ground. And then when the model walked past, what I really liked about it was that there were these kind of long fluttering tails on this super tailored, almost like safari jacket. And it was almost a wink that this, very buttoned up look from the front actually had this, sense of playfulness and, rebellion from the other side. So I really enjoyed that look for the element of surprise and also the tailoring. The pants were really, really beautifully tailored. The collection this season was held at the Surrogate's Court downtown, and Sander chose that location, number one, because of its grandeur. It had this really grand staircase, and the models all walked down the staircase, and Sander wanted to feel like we were invited to this really fabulous woman's home, and she was just casually sauntering down the stairs to show us her new looks. But he also chose it because the architecture of the Courthouse is based off of the Paris Opera House, and Sander liked the kind of Americanization of this very serious, kind of classic Parisian architecture. He used the word, kind of Disney almost, like, if you go to a upscale French bistro in New York and it kind of tries to mimic a cafe in Paris, but it's like the slightly off like Disney version of that. So he enjoyed, I think he was amused by that idea, but mostly it was kind of a grand setting for quite an elevated collection. The music also played into this idea of luxury. You had Tony Bennett's The Good Life playing. The show opened with classical music that was very upbeat and had this kind of twinkling piano. Also of note, there were great accessories. I can't remember if I already talked about these boots that I thought were really strong, but there are these Croc stamped boots that were worn with some of the gowns that I mentioned previously, as well as, shorter dresses or these really slick boxy jackets or trench coats. And there were also really big statement handbags that were, again, done in this lacquered leather, and they were crossbody bags that were slung across a shoulder and had a big metal ring in the center. He also did a jewelry collaboration with Pamela Love, and when the models walked past these gilded bracelets would kind of clank, and I think there's something very luxurious about jewelry clanking when it walks by. And at the beginning of the show, they made this announcement that there was going to be a really loud noise at the end of the show, and so I spent the whole show a little bit nervous because I don't like loud noises, they scare me. But what happened at the end is all of the models walked down this really grand staircase at the same time, and then there was an explosion of confetti, and it was totally worth like the mild fear. It was a really nice moment, and anyone who saw this on Instagram, I'm sure, like saw the kind of like very fabulous pictures of the confetti coming down and all these models and these really bold colored, decadent ensembles. But I thought that was nice because there's a certain seriousness when you're talking about construction and attention to detail. One of my favorite details being this cuff on a gown that was also done with stamped lacquered leather. But there's a certain weight and seriousness to that, and the confetti was kind of a reminder that there's always going to be an injection of fun and kind of playfulness in Sander's collections, and I enjoyed that. But I think that this collection was stronger than last season. Last season was this kind of ethereal collection, and it was a very exciting show. The ground was covered in glitter and crystals, but there was a lot of tricky kind of layering and styling in that collection. In this collection, Sander's technical skills really got to show through, and I really liked seeing that from him. I thought it was a strong collection. Everyone seemed to leave the show in a really good mood, and I mean, maybe it was because of the confetti, because who doesn't get put in a good mood by confetti unless it sticks to you, I guess. But I think that for the most part, everyone I spoke to walking out really enjoyed the collection, and I thought it was one of my favorite collections that I've seen Sander do since he's launched. See you tomorrow.